Joining me now is Congressman Dan Goldman, who served as lead counsel during Donald Trump's first impeachment, which Senator Romney referenced in his statement. So, Congressman, I want to start there. You obviously were leading that impeachment effort. Do you see parallels between Trump's behavior that led to his first impeachment, which you, again, played a lead role in, and this case surrounding these documents?
There's a through line with Donald Trump from the moment that he walked down the escalator to today, which is that he does not believe that the law applies to him. He believes that he can push the envelope, avoid it, obstruct it, and that it does not matter to him. But he also believes, as Senator Romney put it, that everything he wants, whatever is in his personal interest, is also in the national interest. And that's how we end up where we are today, where he completely abused the classification and national security process. He disregarded it in such a blatant and dangerous way. And one of the things that people underestimate is how potentially devastating it is that Donald Trump not only had this incredibly top secret information, but was showing it to people without security clearance. And we know of two incidents that are explained in the indictment. But from my experience as a federal prosecutor, there are likely many more that just can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
So I wanted to ask you about that specifically, because obviously this indictment has a lot of shocking information in it. But as a former prosecutor, this is not the totality of likely what they will use in court, right? So how should we understand that?
Well, that is generally true with indictments, although I will say I was very struck at the amount and specificity of evidence that was included in an indictment. You don't have to do that when you charge a defendant. But clearly the special counsel wanted to lay out a full narrative, including some of the most damning evidence, because this indictment will likely be the only true speaking aspect or public aspect of this case for many, many months. And it is oftentimes, as a prosecutor, we would present an indictment to the grand jury that would reference recordings or text messages or video surveillance, among other things. In this case, the special counsel lays it out in incredible detail, including transcriptions of the text messages and most damningly, that recording with Donald Trump, where he admits that the information he had was still classified. It had not been declassified yet, and that he knew it and knew that he should not be showing it to those people.
I mean, indictments, legal documents, no offense, so since you're a former prosecutor, can be a little sleepy. This is certainly not. So now reading this, you said there's damning evidence in here. It's obviously very detailed. It tells a story. One of the questions a lot of people is asking is there enough in here, if Donald Trump is convicted, for him to go to prison? I mean, there are outlines at the very end about the maximum sentences, but what should people's expectation of that be?
Well, it should not be whatever the maximum sentence is. There are sentencing guidelines that govern sentencing, which will be dramatically less than the total, statutory maximum of all of these crimes combined. So, there is real potential and likelihood of jail time if he is convicted. And the concern, I think, for many right now is that the judge that it was assigned to is a judge who has demonstrated unusual and somewhat lawless bias towards Donald Trump in favor of him, and was seriously rebuked by the Court of Appeals when she issued an order related to the search warrant of Mar-a-Lago. So I think the Department of Justice will have to evaluate whether or not they would seek recusal, and whether that judge would determine that there's at least an appearance of bias that would warrant her recusal. But she would have control over the sentencing.
And you're, of course, referring to Judge Aileen Cannon, who has ruled in Trump's favor in the past. And since you referenced kind of what she could do here, she could delay, she could make it easier for Trump in many ways. What are the options the Department of Justice has at their disposal if she delays, or if she looks like she's acting in a way that's biased toward the Trump team?
Well, if she goes forward and decides not to recuse, there are lots of different ways that she can put her thumb on the scale. some of which will be appealable to the Court of Appeals. Certainly, if, for example, she dismisses the indictment, that would be immediately appealable. But there are lots of other smaller, less dramatic ways that she can influence, including, I think, most importantly, evidentiary rulings. Where there's a lot of latitude and discretion for the trial judge to make that determination. So I hope we don't see the same kind of clear and abuse of discretion and abuse of her role that we saw with the documents case. And I'm not saying that because she's a Trump appointee. There are many judges who are appointed by different presidents who, of course, most of the judges, almost all of them, recognize they have a duty to follow the law. The concern here is specifically with her actions in that documents case that were clearly so outside the bounds of what her discretion was that she was reversed and rebuked by the Court of Appeals.
Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you so much for joining me today.